Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Club Junkie podcast. Hopefully, having a great start to the new year. It's crazy. Think that we're already in 2022. We're already into launch season. This whole month is going to be pretty much nothing but new product coming out every week, every few days, whatever. It's hard to even keep track of what is upcoming, what is already here, all that. But it's a fun week. I'm always excited. I love launch week. And there's a bunch of, two new, Callaway, TaylorMade, both out with new stuff. And it's pretty exciting to see. Love seeing all the new tech, all that. Before we get into any of that, let's let you know this episode here. Brought to you by Titleist, Pro V1, and Pro V1X. Titleist Pro V1, Pro V1X, the number one ball in golf, the number one ball on the PGA Tour. It's basically the standard of tour level golf balls. And if you're looking for something that's a little softer feel, a little more penetrating flight, a little lower spin in the long game, look at the Pro V1. If you're looking for something that flies a little higher, has a little firmer feel, still has really low spin but high spin around the green, you're going to look at the Pro V1X. So again, number one ball in golf, has been there for years. This version here, they've totally redid from cover to core, new softer cast urethane, elastomer cover, faster casing layers, reformulated 2.0 ZG process dual core. Tons of new technology in these balls. So go to Titleist.com, check out the Pro V1 and Pro V1X, and give them a try when you get a chance. These are still full boxes, unfortunately. Or I guess fortunately for me going into next year, but unfortunately for me, the fact that I didn't use them all, which is kind of a bummer. But again, we're into launch season, and the launch season for equipment junkies like myself is super exciting. I always get super pumped to see what's new, to learn about the new tech, all that that all these companies are coming out with. And TaylorMade just announced TaylorMade just announced the Stealth line of woods, irons, everything. So that's the new name they're going with. Sim's gone into Stealth, and then Callaway came out with the Rogue ST in their lineup. So brand new names, or newer names. I guess Rogue was a previous model, but the Rogue ST is all new. And just a ton of new equipment. It's really cool to see. Like I said, I'm a big fan of launch stuff. I get super excited about new equipment. I love to see how companies are pushing the limit and moving things in different directions and trying different things and all this to get these new products out. And the one thing that just blows me away though is, I guess I shouldn't do it, but reading like the comments on all the articles that media outlets do. Everybody does a release, some type of article on, hey, here's the new Stealth, here's the new Rogue ST, whatever it is. Everybody, Golf WRX, whatever media outlet. And it is amazing to see the comments that people who, I guess, just aren't, have enough knowledge to be dangerous post. And for whatever reason, it irks me, just because, everything in our lives now there's a new product every year or every couple months or whatever it is, whether it's cell phones, whether it's TVs, whether it's golf clubs, whether it's cars. There's always a new thing every year. There's always is. These companies are trying to make money, so they make these products, and they're always developing stuff, and they're making products, and they're making better products, and they're selling them for a profit. And the comments that just some people make, the enormous amount of comments about this Stealth, about oh great, here's the new one, we'll see two more before the next 4 months. And it's TaylorMade hasn't had yes, years ago they had weird release cycles where they would release one set of drivers, they would release an R1, and then they would introduce a burner series or something like that, and they were staggered, and it seemed like they were releasing a lot of drivers. And at one point they were releasing a lot of drivers, but they haven't done that in years. It's been forever. It's basically just here's the launch, here's, M1, M2. So unless you take it back to 2016, or even I guess Sim was the last time, I guess SLDR was the last time that they really released two totally separate, the SLDR driver line, and then they released, I think it was Aero Burner or something like that at the time. But you can go back to a lot of these companies now, and everything is released at the same time. Right now, it's here's Stealth. That's what it is. There's not going to be another, or more than likely not going to be a whole other driver line or anything like that the rest of the year. Here's what it is, and if you want it, great. Let's roll. Same thing with Callaway, and it's like amazing to me the same comments that you hear about, oh, they'll just release another one 2 months, and and how nothing is changing, or like the comments about the technology. I mean, just stuff that like, oh, well, that isn't going to work. Do you think these people out there, the TaylorMade's and the Callaways and the Titleist, like the big companies, they don't test anything? Do you think they just take a club and they just throw it out to the market with zero durability testing, zero performance testing, zero anything? Like, these companies have huge R&D departments that their sole job is to make things better, make sure it works, make sure it's durable, everything. Is there going to be a cracked face on a stealth driver? For sure. There's going to be one or two or whatever. Just like any other product in the world, there's a bad one that comes through the line. It just happens. Are we going to see a massive just thing of breakages all over and, guys are going to be shattering faces over and over again? No, we're not. I mean, unless you abuse the club, no. But it's just amazing that, everybody makes these comments about, oh my God, they came out with a new thing. Oh, it's this price. Oh, it's not any better. It's, it's only, X% better than the last one. Dude, like, nobody's forcing you to buy it. Like, Callaway's not showing up at your home with a bunch of thugs threatening to break your kneecaps if you don't go buy their new driver. If you don't like it, or it's not in your budget or whatever, you don't have to buy it. And that's great. And you know what? For you, it could be a great deal, the fact that like last year's stuff has gone down in price now, and you can probably snag it up for a decent price. I mean, like there's benefits to everything for like new clubs. You're going to see new tech, pushing the limits, all this new stuff. And if that doesn't appeal to you and the price point doesn't appeal to you and all that, no problem. Because you can go out and grab last year's or 2 years ago club for a cheaper price and get a great deal. And yes, you're not going to see, a 50-yard increase in, between last year's driver and now. You're just not. I mean, unless you just didn't get fit and you'd get fit this year, okay, then you could see something. But if you got fit for last year's driver, yes, you're probably only going to see a small increase in terms of distance, dispersion, whatever. If you were fit well and then you come in and you get fit again. Yeah, is it going to be a huge difference? Probably not. But again, that's not necessarily what these companies are looking for. They understand that people don't buy a new driver every year. Now, Golf WRX members, a little different. We kind of get new drivers every year, sometimes multiples. But majority of people, they kind of plan like the cycles of when people are getting out of clubs. Like they understand that, whatever, I don't remember what the years, TaylorMade kind of like had in their minds of, X amount of years, whether it was 3 or 5 or something like that. Every like that time, they'd expect that people will maybe, then buy a new driver. So yes, is stealth going to be substantially better than say like an RBZ? Yeah, it probably is. It's probably going to be lower spinning, and it's probably definitely going to be more forgiving and all that. But it's just amazing, like just the negativity on everything that goes on with product launches and anything new. And to me, it's just humorous, just because, again, I guess I shouldn't care reading about them, but I guess when I've had the time, the past 5.5 years to meet these people who design this stuff and put their, all the blood, sweat, and tears they have into this stuff to make it and make it better, it just kind of is sad to see people just don't understand or respect that or whatever. And I get it, I mean, there's new stuff every year, but again, it's not like to play golf that you have to have the latest and greatest thing. You can have something that's a couple years old that performs great. And heck, there's people out there who want to buy a new driver and can't because they keep hitting their old one better. I'm totally fine. Like, nobody's going to, none of these people here working at any of these OEMs are going to frown upon that. Like, they're like, hey, man, we got to play what's best for you and go have the most fun and play whatever works best for your swing. But it's just amazing, I guess, going through reading a lot of comments on social media posts and things like that of just over and over again about how it's not any different, whatever. And it's like, dude, you can make that argument for every single piece of material good or every material good anywhere. Is the brand new washer that much better than last year's dishwasher? No. Like, is it 7% more effective at cleaning? Okay, great. But so I mean, everything's that way, and it's just again, nobody's making you buy this stuff unless it's like broken or whatever. But that kind of stuff is just interesting to me, just because like for me, I get excited about it, and whether and if I was not in the position I'm in, like if I didn't work in the golf industry, I would not buy a new driver every year, or I would be that guy who would sell mine, take that money, put it towards something different, whatever, and I would play that game of hopping around, selling what I had to fund new things and all that, and probably each year I would probably select one thing that I may switch out, and that would be it, because I mean unfortunately not in the income level where I can just go buy new clubs anytime I want and all that. And, like I said, I totally understand, that's not in everybody's budget, a new driver, a new set of irons or whatever. It's expensive. I get it. But just like the toxic negativity about, new clubs is just absolutely amazing. For no reason other than to just say it, like, oh, it's not going to be any good. You haven't hit it. Like, the amount of people have actually hit a lot of these clubs up until yesterday or, yesterday was probably very minimal. Like, all the people who made those comments, it's not any better or whatever, you probably haven't hit it. So, I've been privileged enough to hit stuff, before. I've hit the stealth stuff. I hit it back in November, and I was able to hit it then, and there weren't a whole lot of people who hit it before me, and the amount of people who've actually hit this stuff is pretty limited. I was at another launch event where I got to hit something, and I did notice an improvement, and I'm somebody who hits everything new every single year, and I noticed, like, wow, that's, bad. I mean, it all depends on you and all that, but, hopefully people still, respect the fact that, new golf equipment is not easy to make, and it's not easy enough to make it better when you're stuck in the limitations of weight, size, USGA rules on, the hotness of the face and all these things. There's so many rules that you have to work inside of, and to see people still innovating and still pushing the limits and trying new things is, to me, super exciting. And I'm super excited to see where things go. Whether, a bunch of people jump on the TaylorMade bandwagon and go down the carbon or, different material face road, or, do they kind of go, Callaway stuck with titanium? Well, everybody's stuck with titanium, but Callaway's, going the titanium route. Do they still ride that out, or do they make a switch? To me, that stuff is super interesting. And, whether that means new drivers come out, hey, cool, I'm ready to see them. And if, other people aren't, hey, man, I get it. But why waste the time sitting on Twitter or Facebook or wherever and just making those comments about things not being any better? But I guess that's, not everybody's a club junkie, and not everybody, I guess, gets into it as hard as we all do. Myself and anybody who probably listens to this is probably into it as hard as I am, where, half the fun of it is just trying new things and hitting new things. So, whatever, that's kind of my rant. As you can see, if you go to golftherex.com, you can see some of the TaylorMade stuff. I mean, I did some of the videos and all that, so I guess I have a little interest in it, in terms of, I did help, so I guess I can kind of see, where you feel like your work isn't necessarily appreciated, and, but hey, that's just what it is, I guess. So anyway, I'm going to spend the first part of this show, and probably most of it, honestly, talking about TaylorMade's Stealth. And unfortunately, I don't have any here because, like I said a month ago, I was fortunate enough to be invited out to TaylorMade headquarters out in Carlsbad and the TaylorMade Kingdom for 2 days of just me and all the guys and ladies at TaylorMade, and they basically hosted me with a brand new product and gave me all the presentations, the tech stuff, let me do interviews, let me hit stuff on the range, all that for 2 days, and it was just me. Like, I basically had headquarters. I mean, I basically I should have just moved into the conference room that I was in, and then up on the Kingdom, which is, if you've never heard of it or been there, the Kingdom is across the street from TaylorMade's headquarters, and it's basically one of the most immaculate driving ranges you'll ever see. It is extremely nice. There's like a clubhouse thing with like a crazy putter fitting studio. There's a locker room, a couple bays you could hit out of and when the weather's bad. And then the range is just absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's immaculate. And they basically set me up on the left side, had a whole tent with a bunch of gear out, and just basically TrackMan, and even had one of their fitters from the Kingdom there, and just saying, hey man, like, let's hit some balls and go, and it was an awesome experience, and it was super fun to like I said, to have basically 2 days of hanging out there and having the place to myself and being kind of taken care of by the the wonderful people at TaylorMade. So a thank you to all of them for taking that time to let me come out there and hang out. But yeah, it was November, and which was great because November in Michigan is typically not amazing when it comes to golfing weather, but when you go out to Carlsbad, it's usually pretty nice, and it was like beautiful those 2 days. So it was super nice, and like I said, had a great time. And anytime you get to go to the Kingdom, it is just a special place because not a ton of people get to go there. I fortunately have been to both Kingdoms, which is kind of a strange flex, but it's pretty cool because, like I said, there's not a whole lot of people who can say they've been to both and hit balls and done the whole thing. So it was pretty cool. But I was brought out there, and the first day, basically went in, hung out in one of the conference rooms, and we went over a new product. And to see, because everybody, I'd heard the rumors, I'd heard, the rumblings that, TaylorMade's got something kind of crazy going, and then all of a sudden we heard it's a carbon fiber face, and there was those rumblings and all that. And then walking in and sitting down with Tomo Bystad, who's one, just an awesome guy, just super, super nice, and probably has forgotten more about golf design than I will ever learn in my lifetime. And I've been fortunate to play golf with him a little bit and all that, and he's a hell of a golfer, too. He's really good, pounds it. But I hung out with Tomo before. I was actually he was at the trip when I went up to Bandon. He was there, and him and I played some golf. And guys like that, he's basically like kind of like the head engineer of products, and they're always excited for new products. But when I sat down in that room and Tomo walked in, it was like a new level of excitement to show me this club. And we went through the whole presentation, all that, and the smile on his face like never went away about how excited he was for the stealth drivers and this carbon fiber face and this new technology and where they're going and the whole story behind it. And it was just kind of cool to see a guy who just takes so much pride in it and was visibly more excited than probably any other product I've been around to see somebody excited for. I don't think I've ever seen him that excited. And he was super, super geeked. And so we went through all the tech stuff and all that, and spent a whole day basically doing that, recorded some podcasts, whatever. But and then the second day was basically was over the kingdom. And I got to, like I said, I basically walked up on the range. It was only me, and I just got to hit balls. They just had a huge stack of balls and a tent, set up with all the new stealth stuff under it. Well, almost all of it. There was one piece missing, which was one of the hybrids, but that was the only piece that wasn't there. Everything else was there, and it was like, they didn't have like every shaft and every flex and all that because it was so new, and the product they had available was just pretty much stock stuff, which was fine. It's whatever. So I went up there and got to hit balls, and it was pretty amazing. So after going through the whole thing and watching the videos and seeing all the stuff, and Tomo saying, we've really taken a lot of time to make sure that this thing doesn't sound or feel funky or sound funny, feel funny. We knew what happened. They were well aware of the other carbon fiber face drivers that had not been as successful in the past as probably the designer's hopes. But this was a long process over spanning, I think, 20 years basically that they were developing this or working on it, with a short sabbatical in around like 2017. But so the first thing I did was I got up on the range and they handed me like, what are you playing now? I said I was playing a Sim 2 Max, and I think they handed me a stealth, just a standard stealth, or no, they might have handed me a stealth plus. Was it the stealth plus or no? It was the stealth. It was the regular stealth because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play Sim 2 Max. Handed me a stealth, hit it. And the first swing, I literally turned around and I looked at these guys and I was like, how did you do this? Because the sound and the feel were straight up titanium metallic. Like if you were able to be blindfolded and they were able to make that face where you couldn't see there was an insert or anything, and it was just, there was no way to tell. You just didn't know. You were blind taste testing. No one would know that it wasn't titanium. It's absolutely crazy that a carbon fiber face, carbon crown, all that sounds just like a Sim or a Sim 2. It sounds like a titanium driver. Like, you don't notice any difference. If you're really looking for it, the face maybe feels just a hair softer at impact. Just a little bit. It's not crazy, but it maybe feels a little bit softer at impact as the ball leaves. But the sound is metallic. It has a little ting to it. And it just goes, and it is the furthest thing from clunky, chunky carbon fiber than I thought. And I turned around and I was just like I was almost speechless. Like, this isn't supposed to happen. And they're laughing and they're like, dude, that's what pretty much everybody says. Like, it's just kind of crazy to see, what this thing does. So I hit a few balls with stealth. I think I hit like the first two balls, like the standard like Ventus Red that came in it. And then the guy who was kind of like out there, the fitter, was just like, yeah, let's switch over. So I think I switched over, and while he put that Kylie White in the Stealth, he handed me the Stealth Plus with the same shaft, and I hit that. And that sounds a little more muted just because of that weight track, from what they're saying. Because I think the first two balls, I was like, this one actually sounds a little different. And they're like, yeah, it's a little more muted just because of the weight track being up close. That does dampen some of the sound. So that's got a little more muted feel than the actual Stealth, but they're both, like I said, kind of crazy metallic sounding and feeling. And like I said, if you were able to be blind taste that, said you wouldn't know. It would be like the Coke and Pepsi challenge. You wouldn't know which one is which. And but yeah, hit both. Definitely the Stealth, which is kind of more what I fit into. I got that Kylie the Kylie White, had that in there. Started out with a 6 stiff, went to a 6X just because I'm an absolute beast, which is not even close. It's just fighting the left, and I guess I swing slightly fast enough to move into that 60-gram X range. But the first thing I noticed was it definitely flies a little bit flatter than Sim 2 Max for me. Hitting that club, and in my Sim 2 Max, I didn't have it with me there, but I was playing a Ventus Black. So the Kylie White comboed with the Stealth, just standard Stealth head, had a little flatter ball flight. I saw a little bit better ball speed on direct center hits. It was close, but they were a little faster with from what I usually see. And then moving into like miss hits, I definitely saw miss hits definitely carried a little more speed than my Sim 2 Max. And the other thing too was like dispersion on it was just super tight, and I mean I literally could have taken like a baby pool and thrown it out there at that 250 mark and just drop balls into it, because I was hitting at this one little green, and it was just like on the green, and when I absolutely nuked one, it would fly it. But everything was just right on line. I had very few shots that went left. Through the swing, I mean, it feels like a typical TaylorMade wood. I mean, the way it's, there must be something with the gear effect of TaylorMade woods that I just won swinging them well, but I hit it really well. But yeah, ball flight was really flat, or a little bit flatter than Sim Max. Still easy to elevate, still easy to get in the air. I was hitting a 10.5 head. That's what I play. My 10.5 head, even with the Ventus Black, can still get up there pretty high. This there was much more penetrating. I wouldn't even say crazy more penetrating, but it was noticeably more penetrating. And like I said, ball speed on miss hits definitely were a little bit better. I mean, I didn't hit near as many low heel as I typically do. I was actually swinging pretty well that day, but I did hit a couple off the toe that went left. But they didn't have a ton of curvature to them. I mean, they really did hold on. Spin was kind of right around my Sim 2 Max. Maybe it was probably just a little bit lower. I think it was in like the 2400 range, where my Sim 2, I'm probably in the 25 to 2600 RPM range when I'm hitting it decent. But spin wise, it was probably a little bit lower for me. And like I said, launch was definitely high, but definitely flatter than my Sim 2 Max. I mean, overall, I liked the window of it better. I think one, it still carried a good ways, and it probably carried about the same distance as my Sim 2 Max. But it was definitely more consistent, more repeatable with that club, it seemed, than my Sim 2 Max. Now, again, I haven't had the Stealth on the course yet, so I can't really say, if that translates over the course for me. Hopefully that'll come soon, but again, I'm not, if you're watching this on YouTube, I don't have the Stealth heads all sitting here in front of me because I took a bunch of photos and all that in November, and I'm in no rush to really get a head that's just going to sit in a staff bag until March-ish, something like that. So the Stealth driver, which if you aren't familiar either, the Stealth is now the Sim 2 Max. So the original naming where it was, Sim 2, which had, the lower spin, lower launch, all that. And then there was the Sim 2 Max, which is the more forgiving whatever. And then the Sim Max Draw, or D was there. Now they've kind of renamed it. So the Stealth is going to be just the basically what was the Sim 2 Max replacement. The Stealth Plus is now the Sim 2 replacement, has a sliding weight track, a lower launch, lower spin, and then there is the HD for the draw version as well. I didn't hit the draw version only because, as those guys saw, I can hit it left if I really, even if I don't want to. I don't have a problem with the ball going right. I definitely have a problem with going left. So the HD version we never really hit. But with the Stealth, I love the new deeper face on it. I really think it's a little bigger face. To me, it gives me a little more confidence. You can have a little more room to hit it. But the Stealth driver I thought worked really well, and by the time I was kind of done hitting driver, like I said, the aiming point where I was hitting was just like peppered with balls. I mean, it was just, you could definitely tell where I was hitting, and it was really repetitive, and I was really impressed with, like I said, the sound and feel, absolutely amazing. I thought the numbers on it were really good. Again, somebody's going to say, well, did you get, no, I didn't see a 7 mile an hour gain. It was probably a couple miles an hour, but the biggest thing is I noticed that a couple miles an hour hung around on those miss hits a little better than my Sim 2 Max. So, where I'm a 150s ball speed guy, 155-ish, whatever. I mean, on my misses, I could still keep it around 150. It would drop a little bit below that, but not a whole lot. And when I struck her dead center, I was definitely in that mid 150 ball speed range. So I think ball speed on those misses were definitely better. It definitely stayed on line better with those misses. There was only like a couple shots where I hit them left, and I was like, yep, that's the shot. Like, there it goes. Like, because when you're on the left side of the range at the Kingdom, you're hitting in at an angle, and there's a little hill on the left that you see, and for me, if I hook it bad, it would just go around the hill and you'd never see the ball. And I hit a couple of those, but for the most part, everything that I hit, no matter if I hit it a little low in the heel, I hit it high on the toe, it stayed on line really well. And you can say that it's part of twist face or whatever, but I think those misses were definitely better than the misses I had in the same spots with Sim 2 Max. And again, part of that could be larger face, carbon face, all that. And, the ability to move a lot of discretionary weight around because that face is so light. So there's a lot of factors there. And I think the Stealth compared to my Sim 2 Max, I definitely hit it better. Now with that, people would always ask, well, would you spend another $580 to buy a new one if you had last year's? It was my own money, my own wallet. I don't know if I would. Was it that much better? I don't know. I don't think I would probably spend the money. But, like I said, would I switch now in the position I'm in? I definitely. My Sim 2 Max, I've already basically told my dad he can have it. I'm going to take it out and kind of give it one more run in a couple weeks and it'll be gone. But the Stealth driver was really good. And like I said, definitely easy to launch. A little flatter than last year's Sim 2 Max. The Stealth Plus, definitely a little lower launching than Sim Max. I mean, you can definitely notice that there's a little window there. It's definitely a little flatter, and it definitely spun a little less. It was probably right around that it was probably about 200 to 250 RPMs lower spinning than Stealth for me, the Stealth Plus. When I was hitting it there, it was kind of like 2200, so we had to definitely loft up with that to get the same kind of distance out of it. And like I said, we didn't have just a whole gamut of shafts up there. I mean, this was really kind of to test the stock product, so it wasn't like a true fitting. We just had a TrackMan out there. So with that there, it definitely took, it would have taken something with like a higher loft, like a 10.5 head, like a 10.5 head with a little higher launching shaft and all that to get the same, distance and consistency I was getting on the Stealth. But the Stealth Plus, I think for that guy who's a little higher spin, needs a lower trajectory, all that, I think it'll be great. I think, if you get down to like, I think they make an 8-degree head in it. If you get down to the 8-degree head, it's going to be a pretty low spin, low launch machine for those guys who need that. I just don't. I don't need that. But same thing with that. It was definitely more forgiving than I thought it would be. I thought the original Sim, with the sliding track was definitely a little more demanding. And then last year's Sim 2 was definitely easier to hit. You got away with some shots, a little more forgiving. And then this one here, I think, is just a progression on that. I think good players are really going to like it. They can hit it, but, players who maybe aren't as skilled, but still, just under their swing, create a lot of spin, I think are going to like the Stealth Plus because they'll still get a good amount of forgiveness out of it, and they're still going to get the low spin and the low launch. So I think that combination is going to fit a few more players who normally probably wouldn't go into that driver, will fit into it a little bit better. But I think the Stealth is definitely more forgiving, and I was kind of impressed with, like I said, how straight I hit it. And, on miss hits, it definitely had a little better carry than my Sim 2 Max. So for that reason, when I get my hands on one, I will definitely I will definitely switch. Like I said, the head I've already, my Sim 2 Max head I've already told my dad he can have. So he's going to be one of the few people with a murdered out all black Sim 2 Max head running around, but he will get that. And then and also the other part too. So like I saw a lot of comments on the red face. The red face is once you start hitting balls and you get to the range, you start hitting balls and all that. I never even noticed it. Like I noticed it when they first pulled it out. And I saw the display and they handed me the head, and we're in a conference room and I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh man, that's red and all that. When you start hitting it out on the range, like the first maybe when you first get it and you set it down and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, you can see some red there. But even in a 10.5 head, you don't feel like you see a ton of loft. So it's not like you feel like you're just staring at a big red blob down there or a red face. And the way it's painted into the top line, it's really not that distracting. And after hitting a handful of balls, I mean, totally forgot it was even there. It was just hitting balls. And when you're hitting them well, you don't care what color the face is. So that part there, way less distracting than I think than I thought it was going to be, and I think way less distracting than a lot of people who are on the fence about it are going to really. Once you start hitting it, you're not going to care. Like I said, you're not going to notice it. So so like I said, miss hits for me. Ball speed was definitely a little bit better carry. Center strikes, the carry wise was probably pretty similar to Sim 2 Max, but like I said, that sweet spot was just stretched a little bit and. I thought dispersion-wise, it was way tighter than my Sim 2 Max. So, like I said, I'm super excited to hit that and play it. Both of them, again, sound and feel, absolutely spectacular. Like, really, really good. Shockingly better than I thought they would be. Excuse me. So, if you have any, doubts about, going to hit one yourself and worried about, will it, is it going to sound, feel clunky, chunky like some of the old Yonex and Callaway C4 stuff? No, not even in the same ballpark. So it's all right. Go hit it and try it, and I think it's worth definitely trying. So the Fairway woods, no carbon face. They're going to be titanium and steel, like previous gens, like Sim and Sim 2. And then this one here, kind of the same thing. They're going to go with the name Stealth for the steel Sim 2 Max. So the Max replacement now is just called Stealth. And that again goes to steel face, but it goes all black, and they actually do kind of a cool thing. It's basically a 3D carbon crown. So the crown actually, instead of just being an insert on the top of the head, and you see the like epoxy lines around it, it actually wraps around on the toe and the heel. So it kind of has, as they call it, a 3D effect, but there's no line there. And the only thing you see is there's a little kind of it looks like a weight, but it's a little bit of steel in the back, and it kind of curls up that the carbon head goes around. Both heads definitely look more compact because they're all black. They're all stealth, murdered out. They definitely look more compact. The Stealth Plus, the titanium face one, which is typically bigger, all that, it is a little bigger, but you don't notice it when you set them down side by side. You don't really notice a huge difference. I think if you only grab the Thai one and set it down, you would think it's a much more compact head. It doesn't look overly huge. Both of them have just a really clean look with that carbon crown. I really like what that does to the head. Just gives it a little smoother, softer edges around the corners. And like I said, gives them a smaller look, a smaller footprint, which I think a lot of better players, no matter which one you go with, whether it's the Stealth or the Stealth Plus, I think look-wise, you're going to be pretty happy with either one. The Stealth Fairway, definitely high launch. I thought it was actually a little higher than my Sim. I had a Sim 2 Max 3 wood this year. Hitting it this year, hitting that one, definitely feel like it's a little easier to launch, a little higher, easier to get off the deck, a little higher flying, and still that same kind of little metallic sound when it leaves. There's actually a laser etched kind of a silver line right where the paint meets the face. And Telma was telling me it actually helps people align the face better to their target. They found with the all black heads, people were kind of misaligning it a little bit because it's just everything blends in. And it's something that I didn't even kind of notice was, like I knew it was there from the presentation, but I didn't even really notice it setting it down. But after then noticing it, you would kind of see it. And it does kind of help you line it up a little bit because when it's all black, it's not as easy to kind of know where that top line and face are kind of are set at. But the Stealth Fairway, I thought really, really solid. Like I said, easier to launch, a little higher flying, definitely forgiving. It was definitely missed shots you hit out on the toe. definitely stayed online really, really well. I think that it was a little more forgiving than Sim 2 Max. I feel like I got away with some really bad swings and balls that would have stayed in play where my Sim 2 Max would have, kind of hooked off the planet a little bit. Distance was really good with it. I don't think distance is crazy longer unless you're somebody who needs height and needs a little more launch. You're probably going to find a little more distance with the Stealth compared to Sim 2 Max. Overall, like I said, I think sound is just a hair more metallic, and I kind of liked it a little bit. For whatever reason, maybe it's just my Sim 2 Max. I feel like it gets a little bit, it can knock a touch depending on where you hit it in the face. This, I had none of that. It was just, straight that, carpenter steel metallic sound when it left the face. But the thing's hot. It goes a long way. And, it doesn't have a ton of draw bias to it either. I don't like with these heads, some people get kind of nervous about, well, it's the more forgiving head and all that. It doesn't have a ton of draw. It really didn't. Even hitting the stock shafts, and it pretty much, it felt pretty neutral. Again, I never have to worry about it right. I did hit a few left, but not as many as my Sim 2 Max. So the Stealth fairway, I really like. I think it, like I said, looks great. And in that thing, it like that crown just makes it look much better. I know I got a question on my Instagram today at Club Junkie Pod. Somebody was asking me, how does it look compared to, how do the two compare, the titanium and the steel, the regular? And I was like, honestly, they don't look a whole lot different. They both look pretty compact. So, but yeah, same old, it's got twist trace in it, all that. The speed pocket, easy to hit. Even stuff hit thin, gets up in the air. Definitely a little easier than my Sim 2 Max. Sim 2 Max, you hit it thin, it would get up, but it would fly pretty flat. Stealth, I think, gets up all up in the air a little easier. And, I was just hitting the 15 degree. I think I hit the 5-wood as well. 5-wood was, straight up, straight down. If you're looking for something that is, super easy to get up in the air, lands super soft, the 5-wood was really, really easy to launch. I was hitting a ground with like kind of that stock Ventus red in there, and which is a high launch. Excuse me, which is a high launching shaft anyway. But I was kind of straight in the air, straight down, landed soft, descent angle super steep. I thought it was, in terms of a 5-wood, I think it's going to be a little bit more improved and a little bit softer landing than last year's Sim 2 Max, just because it does launch higher and it just lands super, super soft. So I did hit the 5-wood, and honestly, every once in a while I hit a 5-wood like that, and I'm like, man, maybe I could put this in the bag. It does go a little far, though, for me. If I was to take out, say, like my 3 hybrid, and put a 5-wood in there, I feel like it goes just a smidge too far. So I'd have to kind of work on that to see where that would fit in. But I'm getting closer to maybe putting a 5-wood in. And like I said, the Stealth is pretty darn good. The Stealth Plus, they totally redid the sole. So they've got that, the old one had like an 80-gram kind of steel sole on the bottom. This one's same thing, but it's definitely done differently. They've moved the weight out to the sides more. And I know that the original Sim, guys loved it because it was super low launch, super low spin. Sim 2 Max, easier to launch, super low spin. This one here, much more similar to Sim 2 Max. I think it actually launches just a hair higher than that. Still really low spin, goes forever. I think the first shot I hit, I just absolutely dead centered it. And I was like, that carried within, I don't know what it carried within my driver, but it was like pretty close. I was like, this is like driver long. I probably hit a shot that was maybe 15 yards behind my, a good drive that I was hitting, and I hit, a 3-wood. And it was off the deck, and I just nuked it, and it went forever. But off the tee, it's great. I think, the face is just a little bit deeper on the Stealth Plus. That titanium face definitely still has a slightly different feel to it, a little less metallic. But the ball, you can definitely feel it compress off the face and go. Like I said, crazy long, pretty low spin. I don't remember my spin numbers with that one. But it was pretty low spin, but it was still easy to get off. You could hit it off the tee, hit it off the deck, still had no problem elevating it. And what, the guys from TaylorMade were saying, like, the tie versions, especially, the first one, the Sim tie, was really kind of geared towards better players and players who weren't as good, who wanted that hot face, but they needed more forgiveness. It was a tough fit because it just didn't have as much stability. And this one here definitely has much more stability. I mean, it's really straight. Very neutral. It didn't have much draw to it. It's a really neutral ball flight. Face a little deeper. It's perfect for just ripping it off the tee, and but it's shallow enough where you can still hit it off the turf. Like so, my first ball off the turf was crazy long. Size-wise, it definitely is a little bigger than Stealth, but when you actually set it down next to each other, like I said, that 3D carbon crown, the way it kind of softens those edges, it looks much smaller than it is. It definitely doesn't look huge. It doesn't look like a big old pancake at the end of a stick. It's much more compact than that. But that thing there, like I said, definitely long, definitely low spin. I think it's got a little more spin than the original Sim. I think it's kind of that it's not quite as low as that, but it's still pretty darn low spin, and it goes a long way, and it gets up in the air a little easier. And that one there, I didn't hit the 5 wood in that, which I think could be an absolute monster. I only hit the 3 wood, and they had a Rocket 3, but I didn't hit that just because the Rocket 3s for me just I can't hit them high enough off the turf. So I mean, off the tee, I guess if I didn't want a driver, I could put that in play, but I just don't. The Rocket 3s are just not for me. But the standard 15 degree, I thought was definitely easier to launch. It was definitely super long. It might even be a little too long, but thinking about how I use it in my bag, I mean, 85% of the time, probably 95% of the time, I hit it off the tee. But I usually am trying to hit like a certain number. Like I'm trying to hit it only to, say, 240 yards or something like that. And this thing would go 250 with like no problem. It was crazy long. But I love the sound. The feel of it was really good, really responsive. I think it definitely is more forgiving. It's definitely straighter. Even shots when you do miss it don't have near as much curvature as the previous titanium heads. Whatever weight they've moved to the outside definitely adds some stability and keeps the ball in play easier than the previous one. But they're really, really good. So really like that. Really like the Stealth. I know this is kind of getting long. I'll touch on the hybrid just because I only hit one of them. They didn't have the Stealth Plus hybrid yet when I was there in November. So they only had the Stealth Rescue. They didn't have the Plus Rescue. And the new one looks, it looks pretty much like the previous Sim and Sim 2. The only difference is it's all black. And it now has an actual carbon crown instead of just being painted like carbon. It's actually a carbon crown. I thought it was actually easier to launch than Sim 2 Max. I think it looks a little better in black. Looks a little more compact. Doesn't quite look as long heel to toe. I really like, especially in the 3, with the way the hosel transitions into the leading edge. I think the all black look just softens it up a little bit and gives it more of a player's look. But it's easy to get in the air. I was hitting the 3, which is I think it's 19 degrees. The 3, yeah, 3 is 19, and it was really easy to launch. I wouldn't say it's like Ping G425 high, but definitely higher than the Sim 2 Max. But it's not like straight up in the air, spinny, fall out of the sky. It definitely has some penetration to it. If you hit it off the tee, you'll still be able to get some good distance out of it. But hitting it into, say, long par 3s or hitting it into a green on a par 5, I think it's going to hold the green a lot better. But like I said, launch is definitely a little bit higher. Ball speed's like really good. I don't think it's crazy, any really longer than, say, the Sim 2 Max from when I was hitting it. Distance-wise, it was pretty much, right what I expected. But I did think that it was definitely a more stable head, than the previous one, and launched a little higher initially. So that one there, if you're somebody who's looking for something that is easy to launch, easy to get off the turf, I think this the new Stealth Rescue definitely worth looking at because it's definitely something easier to hit. The better players, I think you put a little lower launching shaft and stuff like that in there, you'll still be able to kind of work it, flight it a little bit, and still get it into that green. It didn't have a ton of draw to it, much like I thought Sim 2 Max didn't have a whole ton of draw to it. This one, same way. It felt fairly neutral. Again, I never have to worry about the right, but I'd always have a pretty straight shot to maybe just a little bit of a draw, but nothing crazy that I ever thought, I couldn't stop it from going left or it just wouldn't go left. Definitely was nothing like that. So, it was really fun, though. Like I said, got to hit them on, out there off grass with TP5 and TP5X balls. All that stuff, and it was, it was pretty fun to hit all that stuff. But like I said, the driver I really like. Driver for sure will replace the one I have. I got to hit everything to see, but in terms of will it replace last year's version for me, sure. But yeah, the driver's really good. I think the carbon face is pretty cool. It's 60 layers. It still has inverted cone. It's got twist face, everything, all the technology in it, and then it's got that TPU covering, which, of course, people were making comments like, oh, I hit 2 sandy range balls, and That's it. Like, no, it doesn't leave any marks. You can hit sandy range balls all day. And this may actually be a slight negative for people, that you don't see where the ball left the face. Like, you don't see contact because it is like this thin TPU rubber. It doesn't leave a mark. It's just always red. Like, it never leaves a mark. So if you're like, wow, I hit that really good, you can look at an old titanium black face and you can see where the ball hit. Not this. It basically is clear. It doesn't really translate into any type of wear. And I asked Tom about it. I was like, what if about hitting thousands upon thousands of shots of sandy range balls? And he's like, dude, we've tested it. It doesn't wear. He's like, or it takes forever to wear. It's really it's gonna last. So I believe him. I mean, he's the one who's tested it, so I believe that. But the stealth stuff's really good. When it gets into your shops, definitely go try it. I think it's definitely worth trying. I think, if anything, try it just because of the sound and feel. I think you'll be really surprised at it. And yeah, it's like I said, I was impressed. I can't wait to get it out on the course. It's going to be a little while for me, unfortunately, but it will happen. It'll eventually happen. So that's all I've got today. Just talking about a little bit about stealth. Hopefully I'll get this Callaway stuff out on the range here shortly. I've got the heads, so I just need to get them out there. And I've hit another one recently that I can talk about, but not until next week or 2 weeks, something like that. 2 weeks, I think. So yeah, so that's what I've got. If you have any questions, anything like that, hit me up on Instagram at ClubJunkiePod. It's the best way to get a hold of me. I do my usual little Q&As. I try to do on Wednesday, so I did it yesterday. And yeah, I think that's all I've got. So get out, launch season, go try some new stuff, and see what you like. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, and see what works for you. So everybody have a good rest of the week. Have a good weekend. Play some golf if you can, and try some new clubs. So that's all I've got today. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good weekend.